to Learn Free Music Theory, lesson number 42. Alright, in today's lesson we're going to be talking a little bit more on the cadences, but this time it's not going to be so crazy in-depth detail. It's going to be a little bit more of a chill lesson and should be a little bit more fun, less work intensive. Okay, so first a little overview of what we're going to do. Now, we just finished doing the imperfect cadences, so you should know how to write them now, which, yay! That's going to be awesome. Now, we can now put that skill to use in sort of a more fun way. So, we're going to start doing a question and answer melody writing with cadences to end off each question and answer. Okay, so first thing first. Now, I think we talked a little bit before in a later lesson about questions and answers, but I'm just going to go over a little bit more again. So, first we're just going to start with these really simple parameters, and then, later on you'll go and do more intense stuff, but just for now. Okay, so we're going to take 4 bars, and we're going to write a melody, okay? Now, generally we work in 4-bar measures. A lot of composers would work in 4-bar measures, like I can even think of like a Mozart piece that he wrote when he was about 6. I think it's in F major, something like that. It goes da da dun dun da da dun dun da da dun dun da dun da da dun dun da da dun. Those are all in 4-bar measures if you count it. But lots of other composers use 4-bar measures as well. And so what we want to do is create 4 bars with a melody, and then at the end we want to end on this, like the melody note has to be in basically used in an imperfect cadence. So we can use the same cadence as we were using before. We can use 1-5, 2-5, or 4-5. So one of those we can try out. I'm not going to show you every example because you guys can kind of play around with it, but I'm going to show you one. And then the answer is this is where you can get a little bit even more creative, is you can take the question that you did. So it's going to be kind of like da-dum, and then now it comes back and you can maybe play it. You can write it like a 2nd higher or a 5th lower or a 7th, you can change it slightly, or you could even write it exactly the same but then modify the last couple notes so that you play a perfect cadence, so a 5-1. And so you have the imperfect, and then it's going to push forward to keep going, and then you're going to keep going, and then the perfect ends it. So that's one principle that I want you guys to remember, is that an imperfect cadence is usually used in the middle of a piece, or not in a place where you're going to want to stop. It has sort of a not like I'm not going to take a rest here, I'm going to keep going kind of a feeling. Whereas the perfect cadence has a oh, that's nice, okay, I can stop and be content here. Okay? It's sort of like when you're reading in a book and you get to this really scary part or this really dramatic part and you're like, oh, I can't put it down. And if someone just walked in the door and like, okay, come on, let's go, we have to go. You're like, no, oh, no. But if you just finished a chapter that wasn't very, it just finished a really, nice part, and you're like, da-da-da, and he took a nap and he was happy. And you're like, oh, cool. And then they're like, okay, let's go. Okay, I'll come, right? So it's a totally different feeling, and that's what these basic cadences are, is they generate feelings that either push you or relax you, okay? And there's more cadences that you do, and you get, so many in your arsenal, and then you can just really get creative in the end. But this is, we always start with this because this is where, I guess, the basic elements are. And this is actually more what we are doing in Baroque music, like Bach and Handel and Haydn wrote a lot of stuff like this. Even Beethoven did this all the time. So much Beethoven. He was always going 1-5, 5-1, going back and forth between 5 and 1 constantly, all the time. If you really analyze his music, it's just a lot of 5, 5-7, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. He uses a lot. I mean, he uses other stuff too, but 5-1 is his thing, and that's not necessarily bad because his music is so beautiful. So really what he's doing is he's just taking a really basic chord combination, and then he's using his creativity to use those notes in ways that other people probably didn't think they could use it. So anyway, let's get on to our first example now. Okay guys, so here is the example that I wanted to show you guys. Okay, so up here we've got the Q and the A. Q and A time. Okay, so first thing you need to do with the Q, or the question, is you need to compose something. So you need to write some sort of melody. So I picked something easy, C major, and just for simple sake, you know, because of this, the way this thing's laid out, it'd be really hard to get 4 bars on here and make them clear enough for people to see. So I just did a 2-bar melody, but I want you guys to do 4 bars. So it's the same old thing, you just make it longer. You just compose more to it. Okay, so first up here, I want you to listen to this. So it's going on G. It's like dun dun, and then now we've got some quarter notes, or 8th notes. It's da 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 dun, kind of like that. And then we've got a cadence. This is your imperfect cadence. So you might want to play this on an instrument so you can get the idea of how this is going to sound. But so you're going G, G, and then you write your melody out. And then now, so I'm going 1, so I need to use a chord tone. So it's C, C, E, or G. So I picked C, and I want it to fall to B. So it's going C to B. Then I've got a common tone, G, and E to D. You'll notice I'm writing this in keyboard style, right? That's because the way this is all set up, generally you're going to either be writing the whole thing in keyboard or the whole thing in choral. And because I only have one voice going here, it doesn't really make sense to write this in choral style. So what we're going to do is just do this in keyboard, but now I've taught you guys how to write cadences in keyboard style and also in choral style. So now you guys should be able to just switch whenever you need to. So if you want to, you know, get really intense, you could actually make a melody, like a 4-bar melody, and you could even add a bass line if you want to, if you feel like it, and then make it all work out. But it might be hard if you don't really know much harmony. Anyway, so now just to look through this, so yeah, I've written it in keyboard style, so you know it looks like that. There's not really too much going on here other than I've got, you know, these notes and I've got these chords. So these chords all have the chord tones. Now notice I've got contrary motion, and I've also got common tone. Sorry about that. I was forgetting what I was going to say. So that's what you've got there. Now, that's the question. So it's like dun dun da 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 dun dun, and then dun dun, or whatever. Now, okay, so the answer actually gets derived from the question, because it's almost like you're answering someone back. You know, like the whole copy me thing, like I can do anything, or what is that saying where it's like, I can do anything better than you can do, or something like that. I don't know. But it's like this thing's trying to one-up the question or whatever. So in the answer, okay, in this, what I've actually done is I've raised everything up a perfect fourth, okay? Like in the beginning. Now here I modified it and changed it. As you can see, I actually lowered it down. So in the original one, this whole bar is a perfect fourth up, and then what happens is at this point, then it actually goes back to what it originally was in this bar, but then now I use this D. You wouldn't know this yet, but I'm using the D as an anticipation note. So an anticipation is when a note precedes that note that's coming. So it's like dun dun. The first note is the anticipation. Dun dun. So dun is anticipating the next dun dun dun. You'll hear it a lot in like lots of music, like dun 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 dun. The dun is the anticipation. So I'm using the anticipation to build to this chord. And then I have an ALT, that's actually just basically an alternate chording that I could use, and I just wanted to show you guys the difference. But basically, I've got this thing going over here. Now I modified it, so it's going D. Now it's going to go D in the top, down to the C. So it's a D falling to the tonic in the top here. So this is all falling. Now, it looks like all the voices are falling, right? But this is keyboard style, just keep it in mind. So I'm actually not breaking any rules, and I actually do have a common tone, the G. So really what's happening is the B is switching to the E, and the G is staying in common, and the D is falling to the C, and the G is falling to the C. So, I mean, with keyboard style, you have a lot less rules and regulations to follow. So, now, next up, here, the alternate way that you could do this is you could actually move the E up. So instead of having the E down here, you can have it up here. And then now you have E going, so you have D going up to E. So this is raising, and now you have contrary motion going on. And you have the B going up to the C, and the G staying same. So common tone and this going down. So you've got common, you've got lots of good things going on. Now, the difference though is huge because the top note determines how the chord is going to sound. If you have an E up top, it's going to have this open kind of sound, like it could keep going. So if you have the E on top in C major, right, the C chord, your root is the C. So if you don't have your root on the top in the soprano line, then it doesn't sound closed, it doesn't sound finished, okay? So if you put the E up there, it's like you could keep going, and so you might want to do that if you are planning to write another, 4 bars and another 4 bars and keep the piece going. So that could just be a little, chapter end if you're comparing it to a book. Whereas here, going down to the C, then you're like, oh, okay, now it's like an ending. And keep in mind, this isn't the only way you can do this. You could move this around and do whatever. I was just doing this kind of quick and trying to do something that, sounds a little bit nice and still gets the point across that how you can change things. So yeah, I would, get you guys, just try playing this out and hear how it sounds. And then from why I'm not actually playing it out, by the way, is when I try to play it, then the audio level for the piano is different than my voice. And so if I try to do that, then I'll crack and I'll sound bad. So, yeah. So anyway, because I'm trying to boost the volume on my voice so you guys, enjoy it more. So anyway, now, what was I saying? Oh yes. Okay, so those are basically the tips to melody writing with your different cadences. So what I want you to take from this is, I want you to see that you compose a question, 4 bars, not 2, like this example, and then you derive the answer from the question. Okay, I want you to take a couple quick looks at this. Look at the rhythm. So look, I've got 2 quarter notes with then 2 groups of 8th notes. So 2 here and 2 there. So, and then look in this bar, I've got the same rhythm going on. And look here, I've got the same rhythm as again. So here, everything's the same. The rhythm is identical. Now you don't have to always do this, but it kind of gives it more continuity and more, it sounds like it actually comes from the answer. And that gives it kind of a better feeling. It sounds more logical almost. If you just make up something completely different, it'll give a totally different feel. But this is very creative. It's composing, right? It's melody writing. You do get to add your own little personal touch. So I can't tell you don't do this, do this, do this. I'm just trying to give you a couple ideas. Okay, so now rhythm is one thing you can do, and then moving along, some other things you can do are what cadences you use or how much you move the interval up and down. Like okay, so for example, here in the beginning bar, I moved it all up a perfect 4th. And so it gives it kind of like a more like higher, more nice sound, like it's getting somewhere. When you see a movie and it has a happy ending, right? It could be like, you've ascended to some sort of like higher knowledge, or the ending turned out better. Or if you maybe made it go down, it could have more of like a depressing feel, but it's like it was hard work, but it turned out good. So it gives a different feel to it. And so every little adjustment you make changes the mood of the piece. And yeah, so there's lots to think about. So basically the basic rule is, I said basic twice. You go through your 4-note bar, and then you write an imperfect cadence. So I wrote 1-5, but you could write 4-1, 4-5, or you could write 2-5. Now you could also write this on a minor key, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff. You don't have to use common time or 4-4. You could use 3-4 or 6-8 or any of the other time signatures that you know. And yeah, there's lots of different things that you can do with this because this is a creative process. So just try to think like, you know, it's almost like an echo with a different ending. So the question and the answer. It's like, how do you like to make your sandwich? I like to make my sandwich with egg, or something like that. I don't know. With egg. I don't know. Yeah. I was just thinking, man, that didn't sound very musical at the end there. But anyway, because I was trying to think of what word I wanted to use there that actually made sense in the syllable kind of way. Anyway, okay, so that's that. So now let's move on to the homework. Homework. No. Alright, so for your homework today, what I want you guys to do is compose 5 question and answer melodies with 4 bars for each one. So I guess I had it written out a little bit smoother. So question and answer 4-bar melodies using the imperfect and perfect cadences. So what you could do with this is, so first compose, 5 melodies and, write them out on your sheets and make sure they're 4 bars long, and at the end of the 4th bar, then you're going to have an imperfect cadence using either the 1-5, 2-5, or 4-5, okay? And for each one of these, I want you to use a different key, and you can only use the same time signature twice. So it would be cool if you could use at least 3 different time signatures for these. And don't use the same key twice, like I said just a second ago, and make sure that the imperfect cadence is nice with good voice leading, and listen to your melody after. What I would like you to try to do is compose your melody in your head first, try writing it down, and put some sort of rhythmic motive, try to take a couple rhythms. So you could go, okay, I'm going to use quarter notes and eighth notes. Or you could be like, okay, I'm going to use dotted eighth notes and 16th notes. And that's all I'm going to use, or, something like that. So that it gives a cool kind of rhythm to it. So each one has a different kind of rhythm to it, and also that they sound nice. So work on them a little bit. So the question sounds nice for each one. Then go and try to derive an answer for each question and make sure that that one sounds nice too, giving a little bit of variation. And you can, for one of them, I'll let you copy out the same melody, but then you have to alter it so that it ends on a perfect cadence. Okay? And so after you've done that, listen to it, and if it doesn't sound good, keep working on it until you can get it to sound good. But sometimes you might not be able to get that. So we'll see. As you learn more and you get more experience with composing and other stuff, you'll kind of get a sense of what sounds good, what doesn't. And it's a lot of experience. That's really what it is. It's just trial and error and listening. And one thing is, a good tip is try not to overcomplicate it. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to be the next Beethoven or something like that, and be like, oh, I must write all these crazy notes everywhere. With lots of leaping and crazy jumps, it actually tends to sound bad. So you're actually going to get a better sounding melody if you keep jumps to the minimum and only use them when you want to create a more emotional effect. So lots of seconds and thirds are quite good, and then the occasional fifth, sixth, or seventh, or maybe a fourth to get kind of a big leap to give an emotional impact. Okay, and try to approach your cadence from about a second or so distance, interval wise, or maybe a third. But usually you don't want to leap into the cadence because then it sounds like it doesn't flow naturally. You want smooth voice leading in there, and so that means small intervals. Okay. So good luck with that, and I wish I could hear all your question and answers. If you do play an instrument like the piano or something where you're capable of playing those out and you have a video camera, feel free to, once you're done, you could write those out and then make a video and say, oh, this is my homework for your video, and then you could post it as a video response to this video, and that'd be pretty fun. I'd like to see that. So anyway. And I'll leave you a comment too and tell you what I thought of each one. Okay, so take care, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.